the record button so you all can monitor my behavior here. So my name is Sharon Whiteman. It's my great pleasure and privilege to partner with Diana and Gary Hunter to bring this training to Australasia every Saturday. As you know, we've been doing this for 15, 16 years now, and we're equally selfish in desiring this opportunity to surround ourselves in enlightening and educational speakers. We, in Manatech, we have world leaders. These are world change agents, and really the globe needs us. They need us all to be really committed and connected to Manatech and spreading this word. As I always say, there's people out there praying for what we have, whether it be our technology or our opportunity or our mission. We have the full, anything anybody would want as far as a partnership for their livelihood. Now, just tell you a little bit, we are very blessed that Ray Robbins asked me to reach out to Roy. He's been recommended as a guest speaker for us, and I'm so very grateful, Roy, that you've put us into your busy schedule. I know you've had a busy week. For those of you that haven't had the opportunity to meet Roy, Roy is a nationally known leader and gifted teacher who spent over 3 decades in Christian ministry. As an accomplished speaker, trainer, and coach, he has devoted his life to equipping organizations, families, and individuals to overcoming the relational minefields that we all encounter, which explode our dreams of growth and success. Trained as an architect, Roy has a phoenix propensity for taking the ashes of complicated problems and resurrecting creative solutions from them. I think, I have a few areas of my life I'd like some of that. Roy has conducted hundreds of live events throughout the US and Canada, teaching skills, knowledge, and resources which unlock those invisible chains that keep us all shackled and unfulfilled. Roy has served as president of 2 separate nonprofit organizations since 2003, served as president and CEO of Maximum Team Dynamics, Inc., which is dedicated to creating successful culture in organizations and families as they work through the strategic processes towards growth and health. Roy's position with Manatech, Inc. has achieved silver presidential with his wife, Mary, of 34 years. He has numerous qualifications in nutrition, served on the North American Advisory Council, and they've long hosted Monday night training calls just like this one. So, Roy, thank you so very much for being here with us today.
Sharon, it's a real pleasure to be here. I never realized you've been doing this for 15 years. Wow, that's a kudos. That's just amazing that you've been so faithful about that. So good for you. So,
thank you.
But what got you started? Let me ask you. I'm going to interview you for a minute. So, what got you started doing this? And tell me, how's this evolved over the last 15 years for you? It started out as a conference call, I'll bet.
Yes, it did. It did until about 1.5 years ago. I started unwell, and I came to Manatech for the technology and recovered. I am an ex-ICU clinical nurse specialist, and only knew Western medicine. Didn't really realize how much responsibility and power I had in my hands to manage quite a disastrous health situation. And within about 18 months, I was sharing the technology, and it was when we launched here, so it's 20 years. And the people who introduced me, who are my upline, were in America. So there was minimal resources personally for our team. And I connected with other people. We started utilizing all the US conference calls back in the days of Kevin Robbins and Tim Altvader and Mary Jo. And we decided we needed something for Australasia. So a few of us got together, and we've just carried on the tradition. We rely heavily on North American speakers. It's one of the best time zones for us to match. And obviously there's a lot of gifted and giving leaders in Manatech in North America. So that's me.
Well, that's great. That's great. And I am very honored that you invited me to be on your call. It's a privilege for me to do this. So I appreciate that.
Oh, fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, I did want to, just before we go to the PowerPoint, Roy, I did want to get your story. How did you come to Manatech, and, what was that journey like? And, again, you're serving many communities in North America and around the world.
Yeah. My journey into nutrition, it was kind of a sideways movement into that. It happened sort of after I got married. My wife has been studying nutrition. Matter of fact, my wife, her name's Mary. And she would be so much better than me sharing some information with you on this call. She actually should be here doing this. But she's kind of a youngest child, spunky, enthusiastic, but she knows so much about nutrition. She knows so much about relationships. She's taught me so much about what I know today. Because back in the days before we got married, I used to spend time surfing in Southern California. So I was on the beaches. I drive my red 1970 Cuda 440 with a 6-pack. You probably don't know what that is, but with my surfboard racks on top and my 8-track tape recorder blaring with the Beach Boys, going. And so I'm driving down Pacific Coast Highway, watching the surf as I'm driving down to where I'm going. And my idea of good nutrition was to swing into Jack in the Box, get my 2 deep fried tacos, and wash it down with a vanilla shake. So that's my idea of nutrition. So Mary comes along, and my life kind of got turned inside out, and she kind of set me straight a little bit. So that's really how I actually got started, focused on Manatech. And fast forward after a few years, again, we've been married for almost 35 years in November. Thanksgiving, we celebrate Thanksgiving here in the United States in November, and we got married on Thanksgiving Day weekend deliberately. So for the last 35 years, we've been focused on trying to do things to stay healthy, paying attention to the important things in life to keep our brain and our body and our spirit focused in the right direction. So, as you know, I'm a Christian, and my relationship with people mean a lot to me. I believe that we're given a responsibility to, Philippians 2 says, in humility, consider others more important than yourself. And so we look for ways to bless other people's lives. And one of the things that we were doing in our nutritional area is Mary was driving down the street one day, and she heard a little radio broadcast that they were going to do a meeting at a local house about this amazing nutritional research product that she had never heard about. And that's really interesting that Mary never heard about it, because she has been studying nutrition ever since she was in junior high school. 14 years old or whatever. And so since she'd never heard about it, and then she was hearing all these wonderful things about, amber toast. And so she said, hey, Roy, I can't make this meeting, but you really ought to go, because I was home. It was a Saturday. And I'm sitting here at my desk. I'm just like I am right now. This is my desk, and I do most of my work out of my office here, and I've been doing that for years. So I grabbed my son. He's 34 right now, but this was about 10 years ago, so he was in his early 20s. So he and I zipped over to this meeting at a local home, and it was a Platinum Presidential, Steve and Tina Shelley. I don't know if you know who those are, but they were doing this presentation, and listen to the presentation. Sounds very interesting, very intriguing, and gosh, if this amber toast stuff is real, then I need to get Mary to listen to this one more time, because they were doing another meeting that next day. So I grabbed Mary. We went back down on Sunday afternoon, and we basically bought into it and signed up, and Manifest was happening that next weekend. We signed up and we went to Manifest. We flew out to Dallas, Texas, all within a week. Signed up, flew to Texas, went to Manifest, met Sam Castor, and we go, wow, there's really something to this. And so that's kind of how we started, and that was over 10 years ago for us. Wow. And my highest levels is Silver Presidential. So that's where we're, that's kind of where we've gotten to. We've been blessed to have been invited to be on the North American Advisory Council. So there are Canadians and U.S. Manatechers who, about 12 of us, who fly into Texas on a regular basis, and we have a meeting for a few days, meet with corporate heads and give them feedback, and they bounce things off of us, and it's an advisory council. So we were on that for almost 3 years. Yeah, so that's kind of, that's our process. And I'd really love you to probably be nice to grab Mary and have her on the, you can see her face, but anyway, so someday it'd be really good for you to have her on the call. So
fantastic. We'd love to.
That's how we got started.
Oh, fantastic. So,
yeah.
And did you immediately see the business? Because you went for the nutrition. Did you immediately see the business aspect?
We didn't really need the business. It wasn't that important to us. But once we started taking the products and saw the value, when you have something of value, it's sort of like one beggar showing another beggar where to find bread. It's like, gosh, this thing is valuable. People ought to know about this. And so we look for ways to kind of transform our life to make that part of what we do. And so to this day, over 10 years later, that's part of what we do. It's just let people know of something that's extremely valuable.
We believed in multiple streams of income.
Yeah, and Mary just kind of walked by my office here, but she was saying we've always had a very strong value of multiple streams of income, because in life, different things happen to different streams of income, and it's really nice not to have to, when one stream dries up, to go into freak out mode. Yeah. So yeah, that's how we get started.
That's great advice.
Yeah, Mason. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at this point. So.
And so when you're, do you have a particular way that you speak to people, or do you connect with them? Do you focus on any part of our technology, or the whole range?
There's something that, as a pastor in ministry over the years, I've done a lot of leadership training. And one of the things that I find extremely valuable, and this would be another call that we can do some other time, but we talk about relationship skills. And when you understand that, well, let's just take the Myers-Briggs personality inventory. I don't know have you heard of that at all? Myers-Briggs? Okay. There's different personality inventories. There's DISC, there's Myers-Briggs, and numerous others. But there's ways to understand that not everybody thinks the same, and different people approach life in different ways. And when people come together, they're coming from different perspectives. And so when we approach other people, it's important that we're not there just trying to unload information on them. My first goal is to, build a rapport with someone, to understand who they are, to discover what their needs are. I mean, it might be that they don't need what we have. Well, it's hard to imagine, but it might be that they're not interested or they're not ready. There's different times in life where people are ready. And, if they're not ready, they're not ready. And so it's just the answer to that question is maybe it's not a no, maybe it's just no means not now. And so the bottom line is if I respect people, if I value people, and I have their best interest at heart, all of a sudden, the conversation doesn't become me trying to get another notch on my gun belt by getting their name in my downline. It becomes about what's best for them. And if they can sense that, if they realize that that's what's most important to me, all of a sudden now there's a trust that builds. And one of the things that I've seen that break relationships down, that break ministries down, that break corporations down is when you lose trust. And trust, and that's another presentation we can talk about, about how to build trust. But trust is important, and if somehow you get to a place where somebody knows and likes and trusts you, and I would kind of invite people to write those things down, to know and like and trust me. Do you know me now a little bit? I've told you part of my story, so you know me a little bit. Hard to like me, but do the best I can. But do you trust me? Am I somebody who really you believe has your best interest at heart? So when you get to that point and people buy into you and know, like, and trust you, all of a sudden now it's a different thing. It's not like they believe that you're trying to get another notch on your gun belt, and all they are to you is a thing. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
people don't like to be considered a thing. You know, they like to be valued, and we all like to be valued. So.
No, fantastic.
So
And
foundationally, it starts with, mindset and how I approach relationships, and that relationship thing is key to anything we do, and that, like I said, I go through, how we approach relationships in another presentation some other time. So.
okay, fantastic. And the presentation we're focusing on today is very much about leadership and being the best we can in business. So that's probably your next logical step anyway. So once you're building the relationship, then having these skills to show leadership. So I might just share the PowerPoint now.
Okay.
Just one second. If there's anything you'd like to add while I'm doing that, that's.
Yeah, there are lots of things that we can do. I'm gonna share 8 tips that can help you improve your mindset, your strategic mindset, how you approach things, and this came out of a conversation I had with Tony Jerry at one of the presidential summits. I don't know, about 5 years ago, something like that. Tony Jerry has a book that he wrote, and I have a on the PowerPoint that we sent out, or that we're going to have here. There's a book called Strategic Acceleration, and I'll have it at the end of the presentation. You can copy it then. But it's a very powerful book. It transforms people's lives and businesses. That's what he does. He's a transformational connection that people have. And actually, Manatech actually went down to his studio in Texas and spent some time with him. And he actually helped the leadership team in Manatech work through a number of their issues and get out of the red in their financial statements. So he was very significantly helpful for Manatech at the time that he was engaged with them. And I was really blessed, to have spent time with him, as a presidential, we get invited to the summit every year in Hawaii. And that's changing right now because of the way compensation plan is developing and different people and what have you. But, I was blessed in the sense that, he took time for us, myself and my wife. And I'll kind of share some of the insights that I got from talking with him in this presentation. Life Transformational, and I would highly recommend his book, Strategic Acceleration by Tony Jerry. Okay, and this is what this is about.
Fantastic.
Okay.
So we'll go to the next, just tell me, I'll go to the next slide now.
Okay, do you have the slides up?
Yeah, can you see them?
Okay, let me see. Oh, there you are. Okay, so so the first slide. Okay, so we have that, and so I just clicked it back. Can you see that I clicked it back?
You can't probably.
Okay, let me see here.
So now I've got it on page 1.
Okay, I want to be able to see it. So am I missing something here? Because I don't see your picture,
You should, so let me think.
So
The attendees are telling me they can see it.
They can see
so maybe it? I need to make you, I wonder if I make you host though, my screen share will stop. So
No, that's okay. No, that's all right.
So maybe just look on yours and I'll just tell you what page. We'll go by page. So this is page 1.
Okay.
You can look on your PDF and then you just tell me when you want to change pages.
Okay. All right. Let me just adjust this a little bit here so I can see. I'm looking at 2 screens. So if it looks like I'm looking off to the side, I'm looking at my larger monitor at this point. So I apologize for not looking at my other laptop here. Okay. So strange.
It is. I wonder if
there it is. I got it. I found it.
Oh, good.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's my fault. got the number of windows open here, and this was dropped down. Okay, so I see it. All right. Okay, so now I can follow you. And so slide 1 basically is 8 tips that can successfully help you improve your strategic mindset. Now, there's a little picture at the top there, and it's a picture of a coin that Tony Jerry actually gave me. It's a little tiny coin, about the size of a silver dollar. I don't know if you know what size that is, but it's about, that size. And it's got some very key thoughts on there, and one is clarity, focus, and execution, and that provides results. And he talks about high leverage activities, and I'll talk about that at the very end. But that's a very pleasant memory. One of the things that he, like I said, that he gave us when we were sitting down talking is that little coin that you see there in the picture. Okay, next page, slide 2. Let's see here. Okay, so basically slide 2, there's 3 principles of strategic mindset. What Tony Jerry believes is that thinking is strategic. It's an element, it's a principle, it's a component of a strategic mindset. When we approach a business or approach a task in any way, we have to approach things at some level from a strategic mindset. And so thinking is part of that. Your belief system is part of that. And then there's something he calls a strategic IQ. There's a intellectual IQ. There's actually emotional IQ. There's what he calls a strategic IQ. But today in this presentation, we're going to primarily be focusing on our thinking, because we can adjust things in our life by the way we think. We can adjust our thought process. It's hard sometimes, but today we'll specifically focus on that. Okay, next slide. Okay, and so when we think about thinking about our process, we must think differently to accomplish greater results. If you want things to change, you must change, it's said. But if you want to think differently, if you want to accomplish different results, you just need to have to go through a process of thinking differently. Thinking is strategic. It's a strategic asset. At least it should be. And as you live your life, you are constantly making value judgments, forming opinions, interpreting events, and making decisions about what you will and will not do. With respect to the results you get, the decisions you make about what you will or will not do are the most significant. Those decisions make a difference in your life. We all have to go through life, and every day that we go through, that we have decisions to make, and they set us in a different course depending on those decisions. Next slide. How well do you think? So that's the question we need to ask ourselves. How well do I think? And when we think about how this process goes for us, as far as our thought process, do I think often enough? A lot of us just go through life on a gerbil wheel. We're going round and around in a circle to some degree. But we don't really sit down, stop, get off the wheel, and just think. Right? Sometimes we need to do that. We need to find that quiet space, that quiet time where we, pray or meditate or just think about decisions in life. Do we actually carve that into our day? Is there a time for us to do that? And in fact, when you think about health, those times, those quiet times, those times where we sit down and get off the wheel are extremely healthy for us in terms of our physical body and our mindset. But in terms of our thought process, we need to do that as well. Excuse me, I'm going to... So the question is, how often do you think? Do you think often enough? Do you think intentionally enough? Do you put that into your schedule? Do you think without inputs, or do you think with inputs? The Bible also talks about the king succeeds when he has a lot of counselors. So do you have other people that have input into your life? So when you think about things, do you seek other people's advice that you trust and value? So that's important as to how well you think. In the slides to follow, there are 8 practical ways to improve the way you think. So this is going to start in just a second here, but this way you can turn your thinking into a true strategic asset. Now, we don't always think about our thinking process or our thought process as a strategic asset, but we have to, if we're going to succeed in life, in anything we put our heart, mind, and hand to, we have to find ways to think through those processes and become strategic about that. So let's move on to the next slide. One of the first things we need to find when we go through evaluating ourselves, and I'm going to give you 8 here, 8 ideas, and at the end I'm going to ask you to take your favorite, or the one that makes the most sense to you, or the one that you need to work at the most, something that you're missing, and I'm going to ask you to take that 1 or 2 or 3 or 8 and start applying them to your life. But start with one. What's the one that makes the most sense to you or stands out the most to you? And so the first one of the 8 is find your sweet spot. Find out what your sweet spot is and spend as much time doing work in that area as possible. Can you spend 100% of your time in your sweet spot? Probably not, but you can find ways to spend more time there than not. So a lot of times we know what our strengths are, we know what our gifts are. Sometimes in order to discover our gifts, even if we don't know what our gifts are, we have other people in our life that can give us that kind of feedback. Hey, Sharon, you've known me for 10 years now, so what do you think my greatest strengths are? And then Sharon can give me some feedback, and then I could say, you really see that in me? And sometimes we don't see it in ourselves. But when we have enough people give us that kind of feedback, sometimes it starts to make sense. So that's why I'm so good at it. That's why it's so easy for me. So when you have other people in your life speaking positive stuff into your life, it's extremely valuable. When you do that. So your clients, your customers, your team, your business, everyone gains the most value from when you can experience, or when they can experience you with your sweet spot. So we need to find our sweet spot and try to find ways to spend time doing that. So determine your top talents and focus and spend time doing that. So figure out what your sweet spot is, spend some time by yourself, spend some time with people, and discover that. So next slide. Number 2 is surround yourself with the right people. As I mentioned, the king succeeds with many counselors. So when you surround yourself with the right people, we've all heard stories about, you take your top, 4, top 10, depending on who you listen to, people around your life, and you kind of echo their success, you echo their personality, you echo their morals even. So choose wisely about the people you surround yourself. So who do you spend time with? Is it intentional, or is it just accidental? Or it's just, again, you're on that gerbil wheel, and that gerbil wheel happens to go around all these people. Is it often enough? Do you spend enough time with those significant people? So take a look at your calendar for the last month, and then list out the people with whom you spend the most time. So that's a challenge for you right now. Take a look at your calendar and figure out who those people are. Make a list of the top 4 or top 5 or top 10. And look at your meetings, your lunches, your dinners, social outings. And at first glance, does this seem like a group of people who will help you get better? I'll let you, that's a pregnant pause. Okay. So do those people seem like a group of people who will help you get better? Okay. So how can you be more intentional about spending time with the right people? So who you surround yourself with is important. Okay. Next slide, number 3. Consider timing as part of your strategic thinking. Timing is important. It might be the right idea, but it might be the wrong time. They say timing is everything. And do you consciously consider timing when making a decision, right? Like I said, sometimes we get so excited about something and we start running and we got to tell these people right now, and these people have to know right now because it's important to us, or it's in front of us. And sometimes we need to be sensitive to the people around us. Sometimes we need to be sensitive to the experiences around us. So is it the right timing? So think beyond the question, is this the right decision? Go beyond that question, is the right decision. Think in terms of, is this the right decision right now? Okay, is this the right decision right now? So know when to take action and when to say no. And a lot of us have a hard time saying no to things that distract us. There was, I'll come back to that later. I'll move on from that. So consider timing as part of your strategic thinking. So that's important. So let's move on to number 4. So number 4 is focus on your daily disciplines. Okay, what are our daily disciplines? Have we actually carved out a calendar and actually plugged in our schedule into that calendar? So what I will do with my leaders is I'll sit down and I'll put together an actual hard copy of a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I'll put Monday through Sunday on that top of the sheet of paper, and I'll have columns all the way down that are half hours, broken in half-hour segments, and I'll ask them to put their priorities of life into that calendar on a weekly basis. So they fill out this weekly calendar. Think, this is when I meet with my family. This is when I have dinner. This is when I sleep. Things that are non-movables. Okay, well, if I work a job, I always work from 8 to 5 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so that you plug that in there. So you have all these non-movable areas, but then you have these other areas that are open that you have to fill out. And you fill those flexible areas with stuff, and a lot of that stuff are things that just come along spontaneously through the week. And so somehow we need to be strategic about what we do with our weekly calendar. And so do we focus on our daily disciplines? So the key to a long-term success comes from making small improvements to what we do on a daily basis. Small improvements to what we do on a daily basis. The term Kaizen that we've heard, from some of the Japanese, automakers and businesses after World War II, making small improvements on a regular basis becomes part of the success that Japan has had, and the concept is called Kaizen. And so when we look at making small improvements in our life, are we actually taking one positive step forward each day? Can we see those movements forward in what we're doing? So if we got through a whole day and didn't make any positive steps forward, then we need to reevaluate how we're disciplining ourselves on a daily basis. So let's, focus on our daily disciplines. So what disciplines will help us increase our strategic output? What are our high leverage activities? Now, Tony Jerry talks about something called high leverage activities. High leverage activities are things that would be in our wheelhouse, things that are our giftedness, things that produce the greatest return on our investment. And a lot of times we do a lot of things that are really low leverage activities, and we wonder why we don't grow our business. And so one of the things that we need to focus on is find out what are those things that we do best and that produce the greatest return on our investment of our time and our energies, and focus on those high leverage activities. So pour your energy and resources into what matters most. And so that concept is really important. So focus on your daily disciplines in that way. So next slide, number 5. So pay attention to details. some people say that success is in the details. Some people say the devil's in the details. Some people don't like the details at all. Let's not talk about the details. I'm a big picture person. I think of the long term, but at some point we all have to get down and, balance our checkbook, or, however we do that these days. We're moving away from checkbooks, it seems. But at some point we've got to do the numbers. We've got to do the math. We've got to, read this or read that. We've got to sit down and do the details. Al Bala's wife always has this little phrase that I think is really cute. She says, "You got to do the do's." Whatever you got to do it. And so if you have to do this, you got to do the do. And if you do that, then you succeed. If you don't do that, you don't succeed. So you have to do the do. And so you pay attention to the details of the things that you need to do. And so the best plans that can be all these things that in our life can be sidetracked. And the best way to sidetrack anything is to overlook the simplest details. We forget to pay a bill, or we forget to balance our checkbook, or we forget to call this person who we told we were going to call. So the simplest little details need to not be overlooked. Rather, we need to stay focused on following through and accomplishing those. So making sure that our details are handled is a very big deal. So incorporate a system of checkpoints during the planning stage to help yourself execute things strategically. So, are there things each day that I'm doing? So let's put a checklist together, and I got to call, however you design your life, and it's up to you to design it in a way that works for you. But I'm going to spend, these 2 hours following up on people I said I was going to follow up on, or I'm going to spend, I'm going to contact this many people, whether I use a number or an hour or whatever. So put together a strategic checklist. Did I do that today? Did I accomplish my task today of what my goal was? So pay attention to the details, put it into a checklist, and see if you can get things accomplished in a way that you weren't getting them accomplished before. Okay, next slide, number 6. So every decision brings with it some risk. So let's assess the risk tolerance regarding those decisions that we make. So the risk tolerance is really important. Sometimes when we stick our neck out to try to accomplish something, and we encounter all sorts of things that we weren't expecting, and maybe I don't really want to go down that road or invest my energy in that after all. Did I consider them ahead of time? Did I consider the risks ahead of time? So every decision brings with it some risks. So every potential project has pros and cons. So the things that are beneficial from those particular commitments, and things that are difficult, the pros and the cons based upon those commitments. And as we consider certain decisions in life, we need to ask ourselves, is it prohibiting or supporting growth in getting results? Okay, is it prohibiting my results and my growth, or is it supporting my growth and my results? So if we can ask ourselves that question, we can actually get a better handle on things that are going to be negatively affecting us. So and then we can steer our attention towards the things that are much more productive. Okay, that's assess the risk tolerance. Number 7, next slide. Think about how you maintain your physical and mental energy. So number 7 is realize that energy is everything. If you have a certain amount of energy, let me say this. Somebody told me years ago that if you're standing on a corner and you're excited about something and you're on fire about something and you're on this corner and you're telling people about it, people will come from all over to watch you burn because you're on fire. And so that energy that you have, that fire that you have about what you're doing, somehow has the infectious characteristic of bringing other people around you, because they want to see what's going on with this. Where's this energy coming? Where's this enthusiastic person? Where did he come from? You know, what's going on with him? What is he talking about? And so if we have a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of excitement about what we do, and as opposed to if I came on this call and I didn't tell you about my story, and I wasn't smiling, and I wasn't if I was just, okay, let's just think today about how you maintain your physical and mental energy. Realize, of course, that energy is everything, and you know that's kind of drab, and it's not very, you know, that's boring. You know, people aren't going to come and watch you burn. And so if you really are convinced that something is of value, well, people need to see it in your behavior. They need to see it in your eyes. They need to see it in your in sincerity, but they also need to see it in your enthusiasm. So energy is a big deal when you're trying to accomplish some things, and not just in your relationships with people and how you present, but it's also in your life. You know, when we in our life, hold our energy up, we get a lot more accomplished. We get things done with a certain amount of energy that we wouldn't get done if we were just sitting there moping around. You know, it's easy to get down. It's easy to mope around, but somehow we've got to keep our energy up. And some of the ways to do that, Bible has a really good verse that talks about, you know, ways to look at life, and it's in Philippians 4:8. And it says, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if there is anything excellent or praiseworthy, think on these things. Okay. So when we start to focus our attention on the things that are true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy, and all of a sudden, you know, it takes our attention off of the other things that we're disappointed about, it's just a matter of a shift, a simple shift from there to here, and we choose to increase our energy. We choose to increase our joy, and it's interesting how easy it is to get our eyes off of the things that bring us up and turn them on to the things that bring us down. So energy is something that is really important when we think about our success. If we live in the things that bring us down, we all know those people who, well, it's the Eeyore personality, you know, I guess it's going to be a beautiful day today, you know, and even though I think it's going to rain, you know, it's, yeah, and if it rains, we're probably going to get flooded. And did you see all the smoke in the sky from the fires? You know, so Eeyore, you know, if we come across like Eeyore, we need to really check our brains at the door or something. I'm not sure, but we need to realize that energy is everything, and we can make a difference, and we can choose on where we focus. So, you know, listen to what Philippians says in Philippians 4:8, and whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy, think on those things. We can choose. Okay, number 8. All right, so lastly, force yourself to think long term. Stephen Covey wrote a book. You guys remember that book? His major work that people have heard over the years. Anybody remember that?
Habits of Successful People. Yeah.
7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Okay, so these 7 habits of highly successful people, one of them is begin with the end in mind. So when you think of things long term, and you begin with the end in mind, and you're looking down the road, and you're not stuck just in today, but today moves in a certain direction, all of a sudden you're moving forward. You're moving with conviction and determination. When you're clear on where you're going, and what you're thinking, that you're thinking long term, all of a sudden that long-term thinking becomes very natural when you're clear on where you're going. Okay, so when you know where you're going, that long-term thinking becomes natural. So short-term thinking is important, and I'm not saying don't pay attention to what we need to accomplish today, but we need to also kind of blend in those long-term plans and goals so we know where we're going. The best results occur when short-term thinking lines up with long-term thinking. Let me say that again. The best results occur when short-term thinking lines up with long-term thinking. So it's important for us to force ourselves to spend more time thinking long-term, because it's easy for us to get wrapped up in today, right? You know, this got to get done today. I got to go to the store. I got to put gas in the car. I've got to go pick up the kids from school. I've got to go, wash this, and I've got to go accomplish that. I've got to go to the dentist, or whatever we do today. You know, we're trying to accomplish things today, but we need to force ourselves to not just get stuck in this gerbil wheel of today. We need to be able to think long-term, because that is going to propel us forward. It's going to take us in the correct direction. So force yourself to think long-term. So in all of these concepts, let me see if I can back up here just a hair. So find your sweet spot, surround yourself with the right people, consider timing as part of your strategic thinking, focus on your daily disciplines, pay attention to detail, assess your risk tolerance, realize that energy is everything, and force yourself to think long-term. Well, let's go to the next slide. And of these 8 tips, I'm going to ask you again, slide number 13, if you would, Cheryl or Sharon.
It should be there now. It might be just internet's lagging a bit.
Okay, there it is. Okay, of these 8 tips, which one do you believe will have the greatest impact on you? So anybody that's out here listening to this call or this conference, which one of these 8 tips that we just went through will have the greatest impact on you right away, right now? Which one is in your blind spot that you're not paying attention to? So your goal, my homework assignment for you, is to take this home and implement them. So take it home and implement it, and see what you can do, and see what kind of transformation it does for your life. Now, I'm going to, all of these things are valuable for us. It's a checklist for us. Are we thinking long term? Are we engaging other people in our life? How's our energy level? Yeah, and so we look at these 8 concepts, and it's just a way to keep us accountable to ourselves. Okay, and so let's stay accountable to ourselves. Let's be faithful to that. But there's also one other concept that Tony Jerry is pretty famous for, and I want to share that with you as well tonight before I close down. And go to the next slide, if you would, please, Sharon. And so the next slide, basically, it says, for a little extra, there are 3 enemies of speed and results. And so when we talk about enemies of our success, this would be slide 14. Here we go. And you can write this down on a sheet of paper. I'm going to give you the 3 right now. The first enemy for us to accomplish things, results with speed, the first enemy is the absence of clarity. Okay, so the first enemy of speed and results. And we like to accomplish things quickly, and we like to get results. So the first enemy of that is the absence of clarity. If we don't have clarity in our life, we don't know where we're going, we don't know why we're doing it. What is your why? Quite often we hear in this industry, you got to discover what your why is. Well, that's important. Why do you want to do this? Why are you doing this? Why are you investing your time here? So the first enemy is the absence of clarity. The second enemy, okay, you ready for the second one? Second enemy is the lack of focus. Once you get clarity on where you're going or why you're doing it, okay, then we start to get focused. And if we don't have focus, okay, if there's a lack of focus in our life, then we get distracted. And the distractions really take us off task, take us off our goals. It takes us off, our journey. We get all these side roads that we go down, and we don't really ever accomplish what some people just go off these tangents forever and never stay focused on what they need to accomplish. And we need to be able to focus in order for us to succeed. So the second enemy is the lack of focus. The third enemy is poor execution. Okay, so the third enemy is poor execution. And so when we execute things, we need to develop a quality of our execution. We need to be able to do things with quality. We need to do things with in a way that we respect what we're doing. And so if we don't study on how to present, if we don't study on how to relate to people, if we don't study here, we don't learn about this, and we don't develop the skills, or we don't develop the habits, to accomplish things, that poor execution, we can get clarity, we can get focus, but when we trip over things in the process of executing, we'll never accomplish what we need to accomplish. So those three elements, clarity, focus, and execution, are crucial to us succeeding. So let's go to the next slide. Let's see. So the next slide is coming up shortly. Okay. So the lack of clarity, focus, and execution. So the absence of clarity, just something to be aware of. The three blanks up there, the lack of clarity, focus, and execution, you can fill in those blanks, basically impact us in this way. So the absence of clarity drains an organization's energy. Lack of clarity drains an organization's energy. So many organizations, and when I talk about organization, it could be a family. When we don't have clarity as a family as to what we're doing or where we're going, it drains us because everybody's going every which way. So when we have clarity of we know what who we are, we know where we're going, it actually generates energy. And then number two, the lack of focus produces a culture of indecisiveness and excessive preparation. So sometimes we do so much preparation and that we just are wrapped up in the preparation rather than accomplishing our task. So the lack of focus produces a culture of indecisiveness and excessive preparation. And lastly, poor execution degrades effectiveness and limits results and restricts growth. So poor execution. So bottom line here, we have eight concepts of helping our strategic thinking, and we have some key concepts, these three key concepts to add to our life that will make a difference for us: the clarity, focus, and execution. And then when you look at the next slide, the last slide on the PowerPoint, that's the book. That's Tony Geary. The book's called Strategic Acceleration, and that book will change your life. That one there is a little paperback. It's relatively inexpensive, but I think if I was going to recommend a particular book, it would be extremely valuable, and it would change your life if you adhere to some of the principles that he has for years been teaching, Fortune 500 companies all over the country. So that being said, let's make a commitment to ourselves, to our personal growth. Let's make a commitment to how we think, and let's make a commitment to getting clarity, focus, and execution. And all of a sudden, life becomes better, and your success becomes better, and your relationships become better, and all of a sudden you have hope for the future, and you have direction. And it's funny how lack of direction causes us to become indecisive and to lose hope. And let's get that hope raised. And I think that is a big part of getting our hope for the future in the right place, going in the right direction. So thanks, Sharon, for allowing me to share some of these thoughts. And I appreciate your time and your kindness.
It's our pleasure and privilege, Roy. So, that's really a corporate structure filtered down that's very achievable for a network marketing home business, no matter where anybody's starting from. So, it's giving such high level guidance, but in such a simple way that anybody could take it and run with it and focus on their next priorities. So thank you.
Yeah. Well,
so Roy, just to leave people today, Manatech is such a worthy commitment, in my opinion, and in my experience. It's we're the whole deal. Yeah, you know what it doesn't matter which part, the mission, the technology, the lifestyle that your focus is, it only blesses and assists people. What's your thoughts to leave people with today in the next 5 years of Manatech? What could they do if they really did put this
just a
into?
minute, let me get my crystal ball. I'll be right back. I'm going to put the batteries in it. And once I get the batteries in the crystal ball, I'll be able to tell you that. But I've had a unique position to be on the North American Advisory Council on the kind of the inside a little bit. And I rub shoulders with some of those guys on a regular basis. And anytime you have an organization with a responsibility that's a humongous responsibility that we have with Manatech and the resources that we have, Ambertose and some of the nutritional supplements that we have that are just amazing, that life-changing. It's hard for me to imagine. Well, first of all, you know, Manatech, it's not going anywhere. I mean, we have this amazing resource that we are called to be a steward of. And everybody is so passionate about, you know, the stewardship of our supplements and of, you know, the value of it, Ambertose. So where's Manatech going? I know they're evolving. They're committed to becoming the best that they can be, you know, as far as the leadership. And excuse me. It's just I'm so hopeful, so optimistic about the potential that we have, that I'm not going anywhere. You know, there's all sorts of things that I could be putting my time and energy into, but I'm here, and it's something that will change people's lives. When I look at folks who have different physical challenges that I've seen drastically improve. It's hard for me because you know, here in the States, I don't know if you have the same situation in Australia, but you know, we have our hands really tied to some degree because the Food and Drug Administration doesn't allow us to address disease with nutrition. So, but people have disease. People have all sorts of issues physically, and we do know that. If we support, and here's how we address that, but if we support the structures and functions of our body in a way that that is healthy and with nutrition, you know, our bodies can do amazing, miraculous things to take care of themselves. And so I just really am so passionate about what we have. It's this treasure that we haven't even begun to get out well enough. You know, we need to do a better job of getting the news out about what we have. You know, if you're a beggar and, you know, one beggar showing another beggar where to find bread, which is basically back in those days nutrition, it's health, how to stay alive. You know, we have some resources that will make a difference for folks, and you know, I think we need to be responsible about that and be a good steward of that calling, and really develop good relational skills, so that when we talk to people, they don't get turned off, because so many people haven't learned to talk with people well enough. So we need to let people know we care about them. We need to let people know that they're extremely valuable to us. And we have an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. The way I close my call each week is, you know, we do have an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. The horizontal relationships with the people around us, our family, our friends, our coworkers, and relationships make all the difference. And that vertical relationship with the God who created us, you know, is something that we can't even you know, duplicate anyplace else. So if we're going to be healthy, make sure we don't neglect that vertical relationship with the God who created us, or those horizontal relationships with the people around us, and somehow life, you know, seems to come out pretty well. So that's my encouragement for you guys. That cross, that vertical relationship and the horizontal relationships, all those things are valuable. So stay focused and get good at what you do.
Roy, thank you so very, very much. You're getting lots of gratitude in the comments. Really appreciative. And I'll hold you and Mary to come back again this year. So thank you so very much.
No problem. We're happy to do that.
Okay, great. Have a great week, and everyone in Australasia and North America. We appreciate all of you, and well done to you for being here and putting this investment into your business.
Okay.
Good morning, Gary. Goodbye, Gary. Hi, bye.
Hi, Gary.
Bye, everyone.
All right, thanks, everyone. See you next week.